Gary Stevenson has continued to make the media rounds, calling for higher taxes on the wealthy and explaining to the world that inequality is destroying society. Now, he appeared on the Diary of a CEO podcast and debated entrepreneur Daniel Priestley. Let's take a look.
You have to go through a process of figuring out how it really works. Okay. So what I see is most often the people who do really well financially who are young, they dropped out of school, they dropped out of university, they started learning how to do things by doing their own research. They start their own business or co-found a business. They take a very alternative path. None of that was taught to us at school. None of it's taught to us in normal society. We have a school system that manufactures people for a set of skills that are not particularly valuable anymore. Yeah. And we also get them in debt for those skills. When people sidestep that and say, okay, I'm not going to get into university debt, I'm just going to go off and actually figure out how the world works, there's actually loads of opportunities.
Okay, so I guess we've sorted it then. All of our viewers need to do is go and buy Dan's book, become an entrepreneur and become a millionaire. It's that easy. Why weren't you guys doing it to begin with? They're idiots. The viewers are idiots. They should be just being more entrepreneurial. It's as simple as that. More entrepreneurial, start a business. Listen, I come from East London, okay? My friends can't feed their kids, okay? And if it was as simple as going out and being an entrepreneur, I can bet you they would do it. I can bet you they would do it. I'm sick of multimillionaires telling kids who can't afford to turn the heating on, you just need to be more entrepreneurial. It's sick, Dan, it's sick. But this gives people mental illness. It gives people mental illness. Tell them the truth, okay? Your older generation, we took the opportunities and now it is almost impossible to get out of poverty. And don't just stand up there and wave, your millions of pounds in front of them and say, if you were entrepreneurial like me, you could do it, you could have it. Because it's sick because they can't. They can't feed their kids, Dan. They can't turn the heating on. Don't tell them to be more entrepreneurial. Fix the system that drives more and more and more of them into poverty every generation.
I mean, I thought it was a masterclass because he just cuts through all the bullshit. I mean, there is an endless stream of entrepreneurial slop content on social media. It's the same old thing. Work those extra hours. Get up at 4:30 in the morning. Start a business. Take risks. But I think this next clip really, really hits home.
The power of entrepreneurship is that starting with nothing, you can actually make improvements. I'm not saying everyone ends up as a millionaire, and I'm not saying everyone ends up equal, but I'm saying you can make improvements in your life. And the thing that causes mental health issues is the feeling of having no agency or no control over your circumstances until the world changes the whole economic system.
I never told people don't work hard. I never once said that. Never once said that.
You said if your dad wasn't rich, you'll never be rich.
Which is true in 99.9% of cases. I've never told people don't work hard.
That's actually not true in 99% of cases.
I've never told people don't work hard, okay? And listen, if you think that Ugandans should be more entrepreneurial, I've never been to Uganda, maybe that's the problem out there. Maybe that's the problem in Nigeria. Maybe that's the problem in India. Listen, I've never said don't work hard, okay? When I brought my book out last year, the hardback, I was at some event and I come out, I was drinking London Bridge. And I come out late, it was like 1 a.m. And some guy come up to me when I was unlocking my bike. Some guy from Newcastle, which is the northeast of England. It's this quite poor town. There's a lot of working class people there. And he said, I've been watching you on YouTube and I love your stuff. And this guy started crying. This guy started crying on the street, right, in front of me. He's like, I work so hard, Gary. I work 2 jobs. My mum's sick and I'm trying to help, I'm trying to support and I don't understand why. And I'm sorry that I'm crying, but nobody ever told me that it wasn't my fault before. That's what he said to me, okay? And listen, I believe 100% aspiration, ambition, entrepreneurial spirit. I would never see a kid that has that and say, turn it off, okay? But the flip side of if you just work hard enough, you can make it, is if you didn't make it, it's because you didn't work hard enough and it's your fault. And I would like you to sit and think very hard before you send that message to young men and young women in our society.
I mean, that is such a powerful clip. I mean, I really like how he flips the argument on its head, saying that ignoring the systemic problems and basically it's all down to personal responsibility, that is actually extremely harmful and it probably doesn't make people more entrepreneurial. Sarah, I think this debate, I think it really, really gets to the heart of the issue of our economy and the current system we all live in, which is essentially rigged economy versus personal responsibility. What do you make of Gary's arguments and also the way he explains it too?
Yeah, He's brilliant. He's excellent. Like, I've been following him for a while, and I don't have bad things to say about Gary. So I hope he doesn't disappoint me going forward, because I always get my hopes up with some people. But he seems really genuine, actually, because what he's actually exposing, he's exposing this myth of risk and hard work that I think one of the most insidious myths that we are exposed to as working people from people like Daniel Priestley is that billionaires kind of earned their money by taking risks, but what risks did they actually take? And Gary's actually exposing that a landlord doesn't really risk anything. They profit off the fact that someone else has to pay them rent to keep a roof over their heads. A hedge fund manager doesn't risk anything. They didn't create anything. They just shuffle money around and extract value from businesses that other people actually work in. So the real risk is actually on the workers who lose their jobs when companies are restructured for profit. The real risk is on tenants choosing between rent and food. And Gary's really, really exposing that. So the fact that he's laying out that wealth inequality isn't an accident, it's the foundation of our economy, is a fundamental truth. So yeah, I completely support what he's saying. But we need to stop acting as if billionaires and landlords have legitimate claims to their wealth. They don't. I put landlords in that category as well because I can't stand them and they need to be in this conversation.
Good. Now, look, no one on the left tells people, sit at home and give up. Now, I think people should reach for the stars, work hard, make something of themselves. But look, we'd be lying if we didn't tell people that the economy is rigged against the working class. And I do think that ties into our last story, where the most common type of business is landlordism. And to be a landlord, you often have to have a lot of capital to start off with. It's a very nepotistic business. And as time goes on, we're creating less social value. It's all about the rentier economy. How can you expect more people to be entrepreneurs? I mean, all you're asking is for more people to become leeches on society, which is exactly what landlordism is, isn't it?
Yeah, completely agree. But that's the frustrating thing. Like, even let's talk about this debate in that question as well, because even with what was going on in that debate, and maybe this is going to be a slight criticism of Gary Stevenson, but it kind of ties into what you were talking about as well. That I still feel like he plays by their rules, because I think a lot of people are still trapped in that neoliberal mindset, right? Where how can we actually just make capitalism work better, rather than why are we actually tolerating a system that prioritizes wealth hoarding over human need? With landlordism, it is an accurate example of people hoarding wealth over the basic need for shelter. And even, Gary, as sharp as he is, frames some of his arguments in a way that still assumes productivity and economic contribution are the main ways we should measure value. And I don't think that that's the best way to measure value, because what if not everything should be about economic productivity? And I think of caregivers, organizers, artists, that, the people whose work is essential to society as well, but doesn't generate profit. Even teachers, nurses, work that's fundamental and pivotal to society but doesn't generate profit. Capitalism forces everything to fit into that framework. And you were mentioning earlier, even just the framework around corporations and these big industries. I think we're constantly forced to justify why people deserve to live with dignity instead of demanding that dignity should be the baseline.
You've hit the nail on the head, because that debate is dripped in neoliberalism, right? And I think we both agree. Gary is brilliant. He's calling for good policies, a wealth tax,
Agreed.
more redistribution. He's sort of taken the line of saving capitalism, though, isn't he? Because as you said, the argument is still framed in a way that every single person must create some kind of productive or monetary value. And we need to be asking the question, why does everyone have to behave the same way? Some people, as you said, are creative. They work in the arts or maybe teaching, and it's not particularly profitable, but it does add social value in some other way. So even though we understand this debate is between essentially neoliberal free market economics and a more social democratic politics, we need to look at how we should shape the economy around different people's needs and desires, rather than trying to shape everyone into this sort of narrow box of essentially being a cog in a machine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone's like, oh, the system's rigged. No, the system's not rigged. It's working exactly as it's intended. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
This is how it's supposed to be built up. I think one of the biggest lies that we're constantly being fed is that, the economy's broken, the system's broken. no, I'm sorry, it's not. We don't need to tweak it. The system is actually functioning exactly as it's been designed to. It's a system that's actually built to funnel wealth upwards, whilst the rest of us are kind of left fighting for the scraps. And yeah, I'm kind of sick and tired of it, because landlordism is now the most common form of business, essentially, in the UK. I can't remember what the statistic is, but I think there are just too many landlords, basically. I can't remember the stat. So it's not because it's productive, but it's because it's the most efficient way for the ruling class to siphon wealth from working people without really lifting a finger. So it's never been about innovation. It's never been about, work harder, work harder. It's literally about controlling access to resources and making people pay for what should be basic rights: housing, healthcare, education, like all of these wonderful things that we should have access to that are, not accessible.
Support independent media, support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.